Hey everyone, this is Robert, and thank you so much for tuning in to Station Square. And yeah, it's kind of been a minute or two since I've done one of these, so I'm just here to wing it like I always do. And today we have somebody who I've technically had on my show before, but unfortunately, technology just old interview files ended up getting corrupted and. But we're here to do a fresh new slate, I guess. So today is going to be a very unique episode because I haven't really done like a lot of episodes that focus on, ministry or just talking about, I mean, I've talked about anime, but how about using it to share Christian gospel messages in there and using a platform just to reaching out to people who might be interested and just sharing the gospel, the word. I mean, I've already done episodes where we've preached the gospel, but not in the form of anime. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have one of the pretty much the guy who is kind of, sort of running the head honcho, the mastermind of, Beneath the Tangles. We have Charles in the corner. So, thank you so much for joining me on this lovely afternoon on your end, but still morning for me. So, yeah, how's it going, my good sir?
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on again. Yeah, it's been a few years now since we had that glitch. So, lots of things have happened. So it's good that we're meeting here again and I'm thankful to be here. I know you're always talking to voice actors, so this is going to be a little bit different for your audience.
Yeah, because while I usually talk to actors and like people that are in like the entertainment field, like I haven't really talked to a lot of, you know, like website stuff, like people who have a website and they actually also talk to, actors and artists that are in the industry. But yeah, I just wanted to do something a little bit different for today. So without much further ado, let's just get started and see how much we'll ramble until it's time for us to pretty much, or if we do a part two in the future, which, it always happens. So I guess for today, like, yeah, since 2024, like, it's been a couple of years since we last spoke. Would you want to, talk about everything that you've been up to since we've kind of been in this little pandemic, wibbly wobbly nonsense? So, yeah, how's it been the last few years going for you? And tell us about 2024 so far.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, Beneath the Tangles is we are those who may not be familiar, I kind of brand us an anime ministry. We talk about anime, we analyze anime, and our whole purpose is to kind of build these bridges and help develop community that's Christ-centered. We've been around, it's next year will be our 15th year. And so over those 15 years, a lot of things have changed over time, right? We started out as a blog. And then, there's been diversions into different kind of platforms. And then, of course, since the pandemic, things have just changed everywhere, right? So we're kind of just going with ebb and flow as well. Like we are a little bit more visual heavy now. Just like you have your video podcast here, where we're trying to do a lot more visual stuff. So I guess that's one big change we've had over the last couple of years. We started a Twitch stream, which I'm really excited about. Our artist Whitney, she works for a gaming company. She's an awesome artist, and so instead of gaming on Twitch, she's drawing anime characters. Like she did she'll do like a Apothecary Diaries character or a free run character while she chats with people. So that's been a lot of fun. We've been doing just kind of fun shorts, reels on Instagram and TikTok shorts and things like that. So that's been different. And then one thing that's continued that started before 2020, but has really been continuing to be a focus, our Discord group, where we really, we're doing different things with different platforms. But if I had to say we're kind of funneling things down, is towards that Discord group where we can really develop community. We have small groups going through that. We have meetups, like the online meetups and so forth. So that's kind of the center, I would say, of the Beneath the Tangles community.
That is so awesome because I've been seeing a lot of what you guys are doing, and you are really doing a very you're doing a lot of great stuff. That's pretty much all, like, because if you're building a community and leading others to talk about what they love and also putting God first and foremost, that is kind of a very special feeling. And it's just feels so, it is such a blessing to just continue having more and more members each and every single day.
Yeah, and I hope we're different
Yeah.
because um, you know, another change right over the last few years is how people become so combative right online. People always were, but it's become, more and more divisive these days. Sometimes Christians or Christianity is considered to be a kind of a certain way, like maybe a very judgmental or kind of um, uh, not welcoming, maybe. And so we want to be, we're hoping that we're very a very scriptural community, and in doing so, we are different. We're kind of like, oh, a Christian anime fan, you might think of that as a certain way, but then when you see our community, it's like, oh, hopefully people see that we are just passionate about anime. We love anime. We love people. We love Jesus, and in that way, we're a very positive force. I hope, and kind of hopefully living out, which is part of our mission statement. We hope to very much live out the Christian life as we talk to people, as we talk about anime, as we talk about our hobbies, and just kind of nerding out about stuff. So we want to be that different kind of group in this space.
Yeah, and like I said, you guys are already doing a great job at that. So I just gotta congratulate you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So I guess first things first, like what was something that kind of got you? I mean, like if we were to go into your background, because I remember you were telling me that you were watching anime at a young age, but what was something that really kind of, got you into the medium?
Yeah, I mean, it was. I think it's the same as it was with a lot of people that are kind of my generation, which is, I'd watched anime sure when I was very young, but kind of didn't really know it was anime, like Speed Racers, Transformers, things like that. But then when Toonami hit, and then also kind of the WB stuff, like all that kind of renaissance in the late 90s, early 2000s, Outlaw Star, Dragon Ball Z, Cardcaptor Sakura, Digimon, all that was kind of hitting at the same time. And so I started really, really getting into anime. In fact, I was getting into anime long before, not long before, but several years before I really identified as a Christian. And so I was really into the medium, and then I really got came to know Christ, and so I actually kind of stopped watching anime. But then as I developed in my faith, and then I had kids, and I started finding some more time to kind of an outlet with anime again. Like, oh, I kind of need something to watch and cool down while I've got all this busyness in my life. Then the two started coming together. Like, oh, well, how can I use this passion I have for anime and kind of bridge that to Christianity? Is there a way to do this, right? And so that's how that all kind of came together.
Yeah, right on. Because I remember when anime was it was still very much entirely like when it was starting to come into America.
Mm.
I mean, we all consider it as like the late 90s anime boom with, like you were mentioning, Dragon Ball, Sailor Moon, Pokemon, and all of these
Mm.
other titles and franchises. But I really do believe that because as big as these shows have gotten, like I could just throw in One Piece in there just cause. But I think the ones that still stand the test of time are the ones that people that we still remember to this very day. Like I know one of your all-time favorite anime is Cowboy Bebop, which we'll definitely get into in just a yeah, there you go. I mean, I just got like
Mario is good.
Mario
It's all right.
because yeah, like I'm just in the mood today. So yeah, we'll definitely get to Bebop in just a second. But going back to when you accepted Christ, like what's your testimony? Because I'd
Mm.
love to hear it.
Oh yeah, sure, yeah. Um, I did I did grow up in a Christian household. My but my parents also they came to Christ as adults. And it wasn't until after I was born, and as a baby, I had some sicknesses, and my mom, who's from Korea, she had never heard about Christ before. But my dad was like, well, he used to go to church when he was little, so he's like, let's go to church and see if this could help our family, help me. And so my mom came to know Christ. But growing up, I was the model student in Sunday school. I knew all the verses. I was reading the Bible, but I didn't really understand deeply the concepts of grace and sin, right? So, as some people do in their adolescence, I started kind of rebelling in my own kind of way, not this kind of outward doing drugs or going partying so much, but just really following my own path. But it was in college where I was taking a Korean language class actually, and this girl stood up in front of the room and was like, "Hey, it's Easter Sunday. Does anyone want to come to church with me?" And at the time, I was really starting to explore kind of other Asian religions, and I think probably my passion for anime was kind of feeding into that, right? And so, but what I really realized later is I was just seeking God, you know. Um, so so I said, yeah, I'll go, and I started attending a church. It was an Asian American church that helped me kind of it was a new experience for me. I'd grown up in kind of an old Baptist church where we were singing hymns, and there was the choir and everything, which was, to me, that was a very cultural thing. But once I kind of experienced something different and something that really spoke to me in that way, I think God was using like modern music and using a Korean culture and using all these different things to kind of reach my heart. And that's when I came to understand my sin and the weight of grace and what Christ did for me. And just I don't want to connect everything to our ministry, but it's the same thing with anime, right? As soon as I realized that God could use anything, to reach people. I had a friend who was like, Metallica was what led me to God, stuff like that. I kind of realized, wow, anime, this kind of storytelling, this stuff that speaks very deeply to so many of us. There's something in here that's Christian, even though it is not Christian at all. It's not created to worship Christ, but there's something in the heart here. There's something in the storytelling here that could really reach people, just like the things around me had reached me at a young age as well.
Hey man, yeah, I guess it was definitely thanks to the girl that kind of led you
Yeah,
to grow closer to Christ. So,
for
I mean,
sure.
I'm just saying because you
Mhm.
just never know that when God is going to use someone to really help develop your relationship with Him.
Yeah, you just have to be obedient, right? God will do the work, and
Exactly.
for
Yeah.
all the planning we do, sometimes like nothing outwardly happens, right? But then sometimes we
Yeah.
just do something out of obedience, and then God will work, right? It's him working. We just we just trust.
Exactly. Amen. So I guess you could just talk a little bit about Cowboy Bebop since it is your favorite show.
Yeah, I love Cowboy Bebop. Yeah, that was a huge one in my journey too, right? Like when it came to Adult Swim, it was huge, right? We were, everyone on the internet, all the forums and everything at the time,
Oh
we were
my
all very much anticipating it. Some people had
God.
watched the Japanese version, and the it kind of had a weird history because, I don't know if you know, but when it was originally released in Japan, there was all this stuff kind of going on in Japanese culture. And so the broadcaster was worried that this show was going to be too violent. And so they only released about half of it, and they released it kind of cut up and in weird order. And so its original airing wasn't really great in Japan. There were people that were like, oh, this is a special series, but it wasn't like this huge hit because it was all released in a weird order. And then it kind of caught on this kind of cable network, and over time started building this audience and built this reputation. And then it came to America, and it's not like, I mean, if you saw the numbers on it, animation wasn't doing huge numbers at the time, right? So it's not like it hit the country by storm and people were talking about Cowboy Bebop like they were maybe about Pokemon, for instance, right?
Yeah.
But for those of us who were that generation, it was like, whoa, Cowboy Bebop's the thing. It was so mature, and there's so many pop culture references, so many more than I realized. I just read a book. We put up a review for it about a week ago. That's like an in-depth dive into Cowboy Bebop, and there's so many references because to all sorts of things because Watanabe was I think we Americans read a lot of American references in it, and there are a lot, but there's also a lot of French references, German references. There's Watanabe kind of watching American things through Japanese lenses. So there's just so many things going on. Of course, the music's incredible, right? Yoko Kanno. And it is one of those series that just move you, that teach you what animation could be. This is incredible. This is as good as anything that's being made in live action. And like you mentioned earlier in the podcast, it's one of those series that stands the test of time. I'm still watching all these years later. I'm it was something that Netflix wanted because it was so cool, so they tried their own version of it, not so successfully. But they wanted it really badly, right? Because they saw something special on this, and it's a remarkable series. You like it as well, right, Robert?
Yeah, so you can probably imagine how it was different when the Netflix series aired, but
Yeah,
I think we kind of, everybody kind of moved on from it just that quickly.
they
Because like it's so weird because other Netflix series, like I've seen the One Piece live action, which I mean, I haven't really watched the show in a while, so get watching it like with a fresh and as I guess sort of in a newcomer sort of mind, like I honestly think the show is very well done, and
Mhm.
also what's that other one? Because now I guess everything has to be live action now, like Avatar, Disney. So I mean, I like it would be like a separate podcast in and of itself, but yeah, I just kind of I like the originals. That's all I'm gonna say on that.
Yeah, I'm definitely usually that way too. The Cowboy Bebop, I think with that and One Piece, one of the big distinctions is from the beginning with the One Piece project, you could tell that they had the mangaka was involved and he wanted to see this be a success, and there was really a love for the material. And with Cowboy Bebop, if you read their kind of making of stuff, like I have a book that Netflix put out that was the making of Cowboy Bebop, their series. Like from the beginning, the producers were like, "Oh, we want to make something cool. Oh, this show looks cool. Let's do this." But they didn't understand it. They just want to make something cool that they thought might catch on to the culture and make a lot of money. The people involved, like the actors and costume designers and the people making the sets, they did a really good job. They did the best they could, right?
It's
But
honestly insane. Yeah.
yeah, no, it looks pretty cool. And then after the first episode, I was like, oh, this might be good. But like I think the
And
people
as
that
it went
were
along,
Mhm.
yeah.
It's just that the producers and writers and directors didn't really understand the spirit of Bebop, and so it was not going to do well from the start. But with One Piece, I think you had something different. I think you had people that were like, "We love One Piece. We don't want to create something cool. We love One Piece, and I want to honor it." So, and I'm glad. I'm glad it turned out really well because almost all these remakes are not great, and I'm with you anyway. Like, I'm glad they're turning out good, but I'll just stick with the anime. I'll stick with the original. That's that's what I love anyway.
Yeah, I feel you on that. So I guess also on the topic of anime, because one of the most, and this is something that you're very familiar with, because when it goes to the animation, storyboard, direct, like there's a lot that goes into making a show, but I know that most of my listeners or viewers, I mean, you're probably aware that I do interviews with, voice actors that are either in English dubs or they've worked on Western animation and, just people that have been in the business for, God, I don't know how many years, but yeah, one of the most often I guess sort of and of course we have our sub and dub wars, which that's kind of like another separate topic on and of
hmm
itself. But English dubs is like one of the most often talked about aspects when it comes to making an anime is talking about voice acting, whether
hmm
it's the original Japanese seiyus or English dub actors to match the performances of the original VA. So that's kind of something that you're very much familiar with because I know you've had on, actors on your show, on your little website. So if you'd like to tell us a little bit about, you know, having talking with these actors and getting to eventually being a lot
Yeah.
closer to them, yeah, you could
Yeah.
just share, some anecdotes and yeah, getting to meet all these amazing people in the industry.
Yeah, that's been a whole lot of fun. And speaking of, yeah, we're in a weird place right now, right? Because you do have these
Right.
dub versus sub wars, right? But like, I think most of us that came of age around the medium in the late 90s, early 2000s were switching back and forth. Like, I've never listened to the Cowboy Bebop sub, like the original voice, even though it's like Megumi and some of these great voice actors, because I love the dub, right? Steve Bloom and Wendy Lee and so forth, right? And incredible dub, right? And and now it feels like you have to go one way or the other, right? It's a weird time, right? But I've been glad to kind of be able to walk both worlds, and to build relationships with voice actors. A lot of them are just most of the time it's just professional, right? Like, hey, just like you, let's interview someone and see if we can kind of promote the material you're doing, and it helps us as well. And but it is a thrill for me to do it, because a lot of these people, or like I did get to interview. Well, I sat in on kind of an interview with Steve Bloom, for example, right? And it's really cool to be able to be with someone that you admire, right? That you've been listening to for all these years. And then sometimes you're able to kind of build those relationships a little bit further, which to me, that's always what I'm trying to do. Like, just build relationships, because you never know how God's going to work things. What role does he want you to have in someone else's life? And it may just be for that one interview, right? He may be working somehow in that 1 hour you spend with someone. Or maybe something further on down the line. So I have built some friendships with some voice actors where these are legitimate real life friends. They'll ask me for prayer, or we'll talk over some issue or whatever. And then they're not voice actors to me anymore. They're just friends, and that's their profession. But it's a really cool profession that they work in. So it's really been a thrill. And I don't know why I started with that, because I didn't have any kind of like interviewing background. Um, but but somehow I started getting around to that, and I've just been really blessed to interview some of I think some of the great voice actors we've had over the last 20 years, and a lot of up and coming people, and I've been lucky too. Like, I've been able to interview some folks kind of on their way up. Like, um, uh, uh, just thinking of someone like Emmy Lowe, who is doing all these great roles right now. I first got to interview her about 5 years ago, before she was Mao Mao and Lucy from Cyberpunk Edge Runners, right? So I could kind of get her on the way up. Maybe folk. I can talk to Emmy, but like there may be folks like that I just can't even get to anymore. But to be able to kind of get on the ground floor with a lot of people has been really, really fun, because I'm like, I could see their careers progress, and it's yeah, it's wonderful. And the voice actors, there's something special. I mean, you're a voice actor. There's just something special about that work and that line of work.
Yeah, because I've noticed that you've interviewed a lot of folks that are just, like you mentioned, that are just getting their ground up. Because you've mentioned people like Steve Bloom,
Mhm.
Wendy Lee, and pretty much the entire Cowboy Bebop cast. And then you've also talked with folks like Christina Kelly or Risa May or Elizabeth Maxwell. So just so many that are just kind of like, and it's also like we were kind of discussing a little bit before we actually started recording about conventions, how I recently just came back from LA Comic Con, and yeah, that can be a lot of work, but it can also be fun. It's
Yeah.
just it can be very overwhelming, like especially if you're just starting out. But since I've been going to
Mhm.
quite a few over the years, it's just kind of something that's been like, okay, so maybe it's when you get around and see like, okay, like the areas or just checking out artist alley or seeing all the amazing cosplays, like it's also a nice little fun family outing. If you're going
Mhm.
with your family, like they also start enjoying it, then it can be a lot of fun, but also getting to meet the people that have been
Yeah.
bringing these projects to life with just their own little special magic. It's a nice, it's a great feeling that I can't even begin to explain, you know?
Yeah, I would say that. I feel like I'm too old for cons. Not that like I don't belong there, but like I just don't have the energy for it anymore. But it's worth going to connect with those people, right? Because in this day and age, you don't. It used to be you had to go to the cons if you wanted to like get an interview with a voice actor or someone in the industry,
Yeah,
right? You don't have to do that anymore because a lot of people will
yeah.
answer their Twitter, right? That a lot of people will answer messages,
Yeah.
but still to get that face to face, like it's nice. And like some of the people you mentioned, like Elizabeth Maxwell, for instance, right? I've interviewed her, but then I stopped by a con last year, I think, just to say hi, right? Hey, how are you doing? It's been a while. So just to continue that face to face is super cool, and there's nothing quite like it, right? To be able to be there, and then you start getting excited too. The lines are there, they're there doing their work. It's really neat. To be able to do that, and then sometimes to support people too, like you mentioned, some of these voice actors are getting off the ground a little bit, to be able to be there and be like, hey, I'm here, I appreciate you, I'm glad to see you here. So yeah, there's still something really great about cons, even though there are so many of them now, and they are really busy as anime is just blowing up in popularity.
Seriously, like I know I mentioned Avatar earlier, but
Mhm.
some of the Avatar cast was there when I went this weekend,
Yep.
and since the 20th anniversary is coming up, I know it's going to be a pretty big year for Avatar. Trust
Mhm.
me, 20 years, man, I still can't believe time has gone
Wow.
by.
Time flies.
Yeah, yeah, boy, who would have thunk it? Yeah. And like you said, it's just with certain shows or media, whenever they start exploding, that's when it starts getting a lot busier. But if somebody remembers you, then hey, that it's cool. Just catching up, just
Mhm.
what's going on, what you're doing. But yeah, it's like I said, it's really nice getting to catch up with somebody you haven't seen in a while. So before we close out, tell us a little bit about Beneath the Tangles and your overall goal or mission with the website.
Yeah, absolutely. So, everyone here, like whatever social media that you like best, just follow us there. We do something a little bit different on every social media platform, just um, because I think our mission is the same, and but it's going to be different how we approach it on every platform. Like I mentioned before, our Discord is really about building depth, I think, of community, about building that depth of talking about faith or just life in general, right? Like you're not going to share about what's causing you to feel depressed on Instagram, but in a Discord community where you feel safe, you might do that, right? So that's just going to have a different slant than our other stuff, right? And I'm actually revising our vision statement right now. So if you come to our website, you'll probably see that in a couple weeks. But to just kind of tell you guys what our basic mission is, I'll just read it straight off the site, which is that Beneath the Tangles bridges the divide between anime fans and the Christian church by developing anime related content and discussing anime and Christianity, expressed through anime, manga, light novels, all the various kind of media that's out there. And we also, as we minister to and love love anime fans, and then as we model Christ in our interactions with our audience. So we want to be Christ-like in everything we do. I would suggest if you want to kind of get to know us a little bit, there are a few ways. One is to go to our website, beneath-the-tangles.com, and there should be a pop-up probably if you've never been there before that'll ask you if you want to sign up for our newsletter. And I think that's a really easy way to keep up with our writing. We send a newsletter every 2 weeks, and the newsletter has a little devotional that's original. That's an anime devotional. Like we may talk about. Um, I can't remember what the last topic was, but we might talk about Naruto and faith. for instance, talk about that for a few paragraphs. And then we'll just link to all the stuff we've been writing about. Like right now, we're doing all our first impressions of the new fall series that have been landing over the last week or so. We might do some analysis of a series. We'll give our manga reviews. So all that stuff will be linked on there. And then we might throw some videos up in the newsletter also that we've been developing. So it's a really easy way to keep track of us. Any platform that you like, we're on it doing different things. YouTube, we might have shorts up there. I mentioned Twitch. You check us out there and be part of that community. Whitney does the stream on Monday nights. We're on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook and whatever platform you like best. We're there. You can also follow me, although I'm talking about different things, anime, faith, life, work, whatever on Twitter a lot. My handle is the Tangles. For Beneath the Tangles, all our social media platforms, we're either at Beneath the Tangles or we're at Anime Tangles. So one or the other, you'll be able to find us and then just kind of plug in with us. The Discord community, I don't have a link that's up there. If you want to join that, you are very welcome to. We Christians, non-Christians, whatever you believe or don't believe, we have open arms to you. You just email me beneath.the.tangles@gmail.com and I will send you an invitation.
Amen. So, do you have like any last words or final thoughts, like
Yeah,
advice that you wanted to say to those that also wanted to go out there and explore anything? Yeah.
yeah, sure. I think if I had to say a couple things, maybe one is that I feel like right now we're very lost in the culture. Um, and so if you're feeling that way out there, you're not alone. And I'm talking about almost everybody, like, that I'm not saying, oh, if you're not a Christian, you're lost. But the Christians are just as lost, we're lost in politics and in all these various things that kind of tie us up and there's so much anxiety, so much depression. It is just a crazy time out there. And Beneath the Tangles doesn't, we don't pretend to have all the answers, but we really do believe that Jesus Christ is the ultimate answer. And all we can do is try to model him and point to him. And hopefully we can be a kind of community that helps you like, like, oh, well, if that's truth, how can I explore that? That we can be that kind of community that can help you explore that in a really kind way. And then also, if you're like me, how I was like 15 years ago, wanting to combine my passion for anime with Christianity, I'd say come reach out to me because I see, I see a lot of this happening. I see a lot of young people out there wanting to talk about anime and talk about faith, and the wisdom just isn't there yet. And that's the thing. Like the know-how, like they can make a TikTok video 100 times better than I can make it. They can have a YouTube channel that's way better than ours, but the wisdom isn't there yet. Just because wisdom happens over time, right? It takes experience. And so some people have a ton of experience by the time they're 25, but for most of us, we haven't developed that experience until we're in our 30s, 40s, 50s. And so what we can offer is we don't want you to be like, oh, come under the Beneath the Tangles banner. I don't That's not what I want. What I want is for us to just kind of support you in prayer, maybe give you some wisdom. And so if you feel kind of drawn to that mission, just reach out to me. And we actually have a Discord channel that's not super like active or anything, but it's made up of all these people that are doing ministry out there that's involved with anime, cosplay, all sorts of things that are anime related. And there's just a lot of wisdom that's all years and years of wisdom that's involved in that channel. So just let me know and we can help you and kind of help you move the way that God wants you to move. So I want to encourage you all there too. So if you need community, come to me. If you need some guidance, maybe we can provide it as well.
Amen. I just want to thank you so much for your time here today. And do you have any like final thoughts? Or I think you just kind of covered everything.
Yeah, no, thanks, Robert. I appreciate it. It's always good to connect with you, and you're doing a lot of good stuff out there. You're a super positive voice, and We've I know as a community we've prayed for you on various things before, so I'm happy that we can be a part of your life, and I'm just happy to see you growing in your career and in your podcast and doing all sorts of cool things too. So definitely wishing the best for you as well.
Yeah, and tell everybody on Beneath the Tangles I said hello, and best of luck with everything you got going on. And today, this has been Station Square with Robert Jackson. And like Charles said, you can follow him and the website on social media, check out the latest updates for any new projects coming out. But until next time, this is Station Square with Robert Jackson, and we're signing out for the day. And until next time, catch you later. Toodaloo. Peace.